we've now got over 100 groups across England, Scotland and Wales. These groups are a safe place where guys can go and talk about the feelings, any problems, emotions that they're feeling, in a secure environment where they're not going to be judged. They don't need to feel embarrassed. They don't need to worry about the friends taking the mickey out of them or passing that burden on to their partner or their family. A place where they can go and talk about the issues and then not have to face them again until they're ready to do so. I found through my own personal experience that it's absolutely vital to be able to have somewhere to go and talk about anything that's troubling us. It's very easy to internalize these problems, these thoughts, these feelings. But when everything's just going around in your head, it goes a lot faster and it's a lot harder to piece the puzzle pieces together. But as soon as you start talking about it, it seems to slow everything down a little bit. You can start making sense of these thoughts. And if you can do that in an environment where you can get feedback from other guys who understand how you're feeling as well, then that's absolutely phenomenal. Last night at Andy's Man Club was another record-breaking night across the UK. We had 1,818 guys in attendance across the whole of the UK, across 103 groups. For me personally, I attended the very first ever session at Andy's Man Club back in 2016 when there was one group and 9 guys in attendance. So to see that sort of growth over the last nearly 6 years now, to the point where we're getting close to 2,000 guys through the door, it's been an incredible journey, and it's unfortunately something that's becoming more and more needed in today's society. The struggles that men face are becoming more prevalent. On the back of the pandemic, obviously mental health was massively highlighted during the pandemic, and people's isolation and things like that. The need to be able to go places and connect with people and talk and have these conversations increased. But I think following on after the pandemic, we're seeing now a lot more of the after effects of that. Financial issues are a massive worry for a lot of people at the moment. Understandably so, with the price of everything massively increasing. I know from my own experience attending Andy's Man Club sessions, which I still do on a weekly basis, and speaking to the guys there, that financial issues are one of the leading factors as to why guys are attending Andy's Man Club and new guys are attending at the moment. Now, there's a number of underlying issues leading up to that. These could be financial issues relating to the increased cost of living in general, or it might be on the back of losing a job or a failed relationship or something along those lines. The former of the two there, breakdown of relationships, is another key reason that I see guys attending Andy's Man Club. And the sort of split off from that is housing issues, guys struggling to find another place to live following a family breakdown. And the other one is access to children, guys struggling or having to go through the court system and things like that to gain access to see their children on a regular basis. So I'd say in total, in sort of a high level view, those are the 3 leading reasons that guys attend Andy's Man Club: financial insecurity, access to children, and breakdown of relationships. I'd say following those top 3 reasons, the 4th is bereavement, in particular bereavement by suicide. But that it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. To understand the root cause of that, you've got to then look at why the first person took their own life, because as we know, people who are directly impacted by suicide are then vastly more at risk of suicide themselves. So it's almost like a cause and effect scenario there. You've got to go back to the beginning of the chain and find out what the issue was there. The way that we deal with these issues is just as simply as possible. We are not a professional service. We do not offer counselling. We don't offer advice. We just provide guys with a platform a safe place where they can go and meet other like-minded individuals and talk about anything that's bothering them in that secure environment. And we lead by example. Our groups are run by facilitators who are all volunteers, and those guys are all gentlemen who've attended an Andy's Man Club session at a point where they were struggling when they were in need, and now they've gone on to gone a little bit further on their own journey, gone through our training, our in-house training, and now they open the doors to the new guys coming through, so that we build everything from a grassroots level to make sure that we keep everything as close to the core principles of the organisation as possible, and to make sure that when a new guy walks through the door of an Andy's Man Club session, that they are met with the empathy and understanding of somebody who knows what it's like to walk through that door for the first time, somebody who knows what it's like to walk a mile in their shoes, and they can be met with that empathy and understanding that they deserve. Has anybody got any specific questions about either the work that we're doing or any insight into that line of business?
Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Oli. Appreciate that. You talk about the environment being safe and secure. Could you just clarify what are the keys to making that environment safe and secure?
The capital tool that we use is confidentiality. We've got to make sure that whatever is said within the room stays within the room, because of the stigmas around men's mental health, men's emotions, and men having these conversations. If they're worried that what's said in the room is going to get back to the friends in the pub or their colleagues or anything like that, then they're much less likely to open up. So by having sort of a Chatham House rules, if you like, what's said in the room stays in the room sort of thing, by having that in place, it gives guys the security to talk openly about anything that they might be feeling or dealing with.
I have a couple of questions. You seem to be being very successful, the rate at which you're expanding and the number of men coming. One of the things we've heard a lot and read a lot about is that men don't talk. So what is it, besides the confidentiality, that is, it seems to me that if you take a group of men and put them in the room and say it's confidential, they still don't speak. So you're doing something which is more successful than Samaritans, more successful than the NHS. Can you describe in more detail, when people come to your session, how you create that environment in which they do open up, besides the confidentiality?
So as I mentioned before, Mike, it's through leading by example. That very first ever session, if I think back to that, our founder, Luke Ambler, quite simply threw me the ball and said to me, why don't you tell us your name and why you're here? Now, in a way, it's fortunate that I was the person who spoke first, because I was very intent on going there and talking about my issues. I knew that there were loads going on in my life that I'd struggled to talk about, and I knew that I was going there to get all this off my chest and get it out in the open. And as a result of that, I passed the ball on to the next person, and he did exactly the same, and so on and so forth. So when I spoke of our facilitators earlier, the guys that run the group, we have a series of questions that we go through, and they will ask the question first, and they'll also answer the question first. So the questions that we go through are very simple. The first three stay the same every week, and the first two of those are primarily to get guys comfortable with the situation that they're in and allow them to talk. So the first one is a very simple question, like, how's your week been? Something that the guys can talk about and answer the question without having to give too much vulnerability away, without having to delve too far into the personal life, but they can still engage in that group conversation. The second question is, what's been one positive from your week? Again, another quite simple question to answer, but focuses and tries to make guys focusing on the fact that there have been positives. Even if they've had a terrible week, there's still something positive that they can focus on. The third question is the big key, if you like. And again, it's a very simple question. And it's quite simply, have you got anything that you'd like to get off your chest? So the facilitators who asked these questions have answered them, passed the ball around, all the other guys have answered the question. So by the time it gets to that third question, everybody's had 2 attempts at talking in that group session. They feel a little bit more comfortable, a bit more relaxed, but they're also being led by somebody who's there and willing to be open and honest about how they're feeling. The group format works where there's generally sort of 15 to 20 guys within a group, and maybe 3 or 4 of those are new guys that have attended for the first time that evening. So when the other guys are sharing their experiences, those new guys feel a lot more secure and a lot more safe and able to do so as well. So like I say, it's through leading by example. But ultimately, it is sharing the stories of the guys that have attended. That I think that's one of the reasons that we've been successful, is we try and keep everything as real and raw as possible. We've built everything from the ground up. There aren't any professionals involved in the running of Andy's Man Club. In fact, for the first 2.5 years since that first session back in 2016, we didn't have any employed staff. Everything was done by volunteers. It's probably something to do with, you know, our founder being a thrifty Yorkshireman and a little bit tight-fisted. But, you know, we've still only got a very small team of employees. We've got over 700 volunteers across the UK. We've got eight full-time staff who manage those. And we heavily rely on those volunteers to help us run the groups. Now, those volunteers are guys who are passionate about Andy's Man Club, because Andy's Man Club has helped them. It's helped drive them in the direction that they wanted to be and turn a corner in their life. So they're more than willing to give back. And that's one of the other unique things about Andy's Man Club, is the fact that when the guys walk through the door of an Andy's Man Club, they're not just walking into a support group. There are opportunities there for them to progress. They can become the facilitators. They can help run the groups. They can, you know, if they shine and are outstanding within their groups, they can become a member of staff and get a full-time job out of it. We've just in the process of taking on 3 more members of staff, and all of those are guys who have walked through the doors of an Andy's Man Club. So there's that progression element as well. So there's something to work towards, and there's the opportunities that arise in there as well. Now, we extend the groups much further than a Monday night. I always say that walking through the doors of an Andy's Man Club on a Monday night is like walking into a new community. Throughout the week, there are other activities that the guys can engage in, which are led by those groups themselves. So I always go back to the group here in Halifax, because that's the one that I ran for about 4 years. And throughout the week, they had walking groups, they had running groups, guys that just met up for a coffee once a week, 5-a-side football groups, touch rugby groups, mountain biking groups that were all born from the users of that club in Halifax. They came together, realised they had mutual interests, went out and set these things up and invited other guys from the group along to do so. Outside of that, we organise other events for both the volunteers and the members to get involved in. So, you know, like community events, having stalls at galas and things like that, or delivering presentations to local businesses. We're more than happy for our facilitators to get involved in those events, because it makes them feel part of something. It gives them a little bit more purpose and helps them raise awareness for a cause that they're so passionate about. And like I said, we open that up not just to the facilitators, but to the members that attend the group as well. If they want to, you know, hand flyers out at an event, then they're more than welcome to do so. And it just makes them feel a little bit more included and like they've got a bit of a purpose.
Thank you very much. We've got a question, 3 questions actually. First hand up was Baroness Masham.
Yes, I've got 2 questions. How do you find the safe places? Are they volunteers' homes? And how do you advertise it? And is it countrywide? For instance, if somebody came to me and said, I need to join a men's help group, how would I find one?
So all of our venues are listed on our website. We've got 103 face-to-face groups at the moment across the UK, but we've also got an online platform. So if anybody falls outside of those physical catchment areas, they can attend our sessions online as well. So with that, we do have full national coverage.
What's your Facebook called?
The website is just Andy's Man Club.
Website.
Yeah.
Andy's Man Club.
Yeah.
Oh.
We'll make sure you get a link to that, Baroness Masham.
Oh, very good. Thank you. And how do you advertise it? Through the website?
We advertise through the website, through social media, local newspapers, radio, TV, by delivering presentations to businesses, working in partnership with other organisations, posters, billboards, you name it. We'll shout about the work that we're doing wherever we can.
Fantastic. You're getting a little quiet again, Ollie, but I'll take the next question from Michael Farmer. Michael is
yeah. I'm just trying to unmute myself. Thanks, Mike, and thank you, Ollie, for informing us about all this. It's just really I do quite a lot of prison work and talk to men in prisons quite a lot. And your three areas of the reasons for sort of depression, suicidal thoughts, financial problems, access to children, relationship to children. It's really a sort of an existential question as to, what men's lives are for. When you look at the female prison estate, it's all very clear. It's always being stated, well, females are primary carers, etc. And actually, we've got sort of icon in our society of a single mum, which has been sort of on the radar screen for a long time. And so it seems to me that you've got access to children, relationship breakdown, that the whole role of bringing up a child, or being a father, or being an influence, raising this human being up to adulthood, is being denied the man. And the whole area in relationship breakdown, maybe with a spouse, is that area, the sort of existential purpose of life is protecting and providing. These sort of reasons are being taken away from men, or they're recognized to not be there. Therefore, why should I be here? Do you think that's a sort of way of tackling it, of addressing it, of making it public, of really raising it onto the radar screen as to actually say providing and bringing up and protecting are good things? That man has a responsibility. It's a good thing to develop.
I think we need to be very careful about what we outline as is expected of a man, because I think the social expectations upon men are a massive part in men not opening up and not talking about their feelings and emotions. I think you're absolutely right. Without that purpose, men do feel isolated. They feel useless, if you like. But I think ultimately, if we just take a little step back from that, that's because of the expectations placed upon a man from society. A man's expected to be a provider, a breadwinner, is expected to be a father, a protector. And if he is unable to do those things, he feels like a failure. Now, some of the reasons why he's unable to do those things might be completely out of his control. He may have an illness, he may have been prevented access to his children, he may have lost his job through no fault of his own. And for him to feel like a failure as a result of those instances is not fair. And it's not really reflective of the man himself. But yeah, I think you are correct in what you're saying. From my experience, we need to be careful around those, like I said, those expectations that we place upon men, and those stigmas of how a man is portrayed and how a man's expected to act and appear and behave.
Yeah, no, I entirely take what you're saying, the word of caution, and you're absolutely right. It's really to gently sort of somehow to replace those purposes. It's to encourage them where they can to see the goodness of it. I mean, I'm just coming back to the prisons. A lot of prisoners, they sort of shrug their shoulders. There for 10 years, and well, I've lost a woman, I've lost the children, and that's it. And actually say, no, you still can do something. You still can send a card. You can still, you know, and there's that just sort of meaningfulness about those things.
I think there's another side to that as well, Michael. I think that, yes, they may have felt like they've lost some sense of purpose in that instance. However, they're going to be hurting emotionally. You know, it's not just the purpose, it's the longing, the missing the children or the partner, the fact that they are unable to see them. And I think quite often men's emotions are swept to one side. But it's really important to identify those and allow men to have those feelings without them feeling judged or embarrassed about them. I think that's one of the underlying issues that we face as a society.
Okay, so we're coming close to half time. So I'm going to take one question from Mark Brooks, then I'm going to hand over to Julie, who is been sitting patiently all this while. Mark Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Oli. The government at the moment have got a consultation on a mental health strategy, and also as part of that suicide prevention plan, given that there hasn't been an anti-suicide strategy for 10 years and the plan needs a refreshment. I think given the political nature of all of this and something we can put into as a submission, I mean, what support are Andy's man clubs getting from local authorities, clinical commissioning groups and the health sector, not only in helping to provide facilities, but also in terms of signposting men to Andy Man's clubs and potentially providing any support funding? Because you're such a great success, you know, what help can you get to maybe go the next step, but without actually losing the grassroots ethics? Because once you get funding from government, they start to try and control what you do. But just that, I mean, how supportive is our local authorities and clinical commissioning groups and mental health trusts to your work on a practical basis?
So at the moment, Mark, we are completely donation-led. We don't apply for any funding or anything like that. For that exact reason, it allows us to do what we know we need to do without having to jump through somebody else's hoops or tick any boxes or anything like that. And as long as we can continue to do what we do in that same manner, we are growing rapidly. There's no sort of worry there. I think in terms of support from local authorities, the most important thing for us is raising awareness, letting people know that our services are out there, but also helping us break the stigmas around men talking, letting guys know that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to seek support if they need to. So we do work closely with NHS organisations and local organisations across the UK where we have groups to help promote those groups. So we work with social prescribers across the UK who can, you know, signpost us within doctor surgeries and that sort of thing. When, as part of opening a new group, we reach out to other local charities, local medical centres and that sort of thing, to let them know that we're opening a new group there, let them know about the work that we're doing so that they can refer guys into us and provide that level of support. But it goes both ways as well, because sometimes guys do attend our sessions that need more tailored support. So we need to be able to refer guys onto more tailored, whether it's, you know, substance abuse programs or employment specialists and things like that. So if somebody approaches an Andy's Man Club and they've got gambling issues, we'd like to work with other local gambling charities to be able to provide them that support outside of an Andy's Man Club, because like I say, we're not a professional organisation. We just provide a platform for them to talk, but sometimes they do need more tailored support.
That's fantastic. Mark, you're on mute. So
yeah, just briefly then, have you had any opposition from local authorities or other organisations to your work?
No, not that I'm aware of, quite simply because the groups that we provide are free. They are run on a regular basis. There's no bookings, no referrals. So if anything, we're taking work off their hands and making their jobs a little bit easier.